Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube channel. This time, we're doing something a little different. We're going through my Dynasty running back rankings, and we're tiering them as well. But first, if you like what I'm doing here, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Let's jump into Tier 1. So here we have the big three, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I don't think there's too much to say about this tier. We know that Robinson and Gibbs were from last year's class, Hall from 2022. Robinson and Gibbs are a year younger than Hall. But Robinson and Hall are the two for me that have workhorse upside. Gibbs, we haven't seen that yet. If we look at Hall's 2023, coming off the torn ACL, 223 carries, 994 yards, and 5 touchdowns, and 76 catches, 591 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Those are insane numbers in a Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian-led offense. In contrast, Gibbs, just 182 carries, 945 yards, but he did score 10 touchdowns, 52 catches, 316 yards, and a touchdown. I'm not sure that many people would think that Hall had far more receiving yards and far more receptions per game than Gibbs, but he did. As for Robinson, 214 carries, 976 yards, 4 touchdowns, 58 catches, 487 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think he was a lot better than people remember in 2023. There was that weird game. There were a couple other things, Arthur Smith. But based on expectations, Robinson was obviously a disappointment last year. Overall, though, I have no concerns about any of these players. I actually don't hate drafting them early. I think these are cornerstone running back assets. Usually, I'm not a big fan of spending a lot of draft capital on running backs, but I'd actually rather just spend the price to get one of these three over taking anyone from tier 2 or almost anyone in tier 3, which you'll see I don't like at all. With that said, let's jump into tier 2. Tier 2 has 4 players: Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, and Kyren Williams. And I find this to be a very bizarre tier. McCaffrey has dominated for years, but he's getting older. He's turned 28 in June. I don't think I need to break down Christian McCaffrey's stats for you, but it's safe to say, do you really want to spend this kind of capital on a 28-year-old running back? Probably not. As for Jonathan Taylor, his best years were 2020 and 2021. In 2022 and 2023, he hasn't been nearly as good. And then for the other two, I mean, Kyren Williams, draft capital concerns, just 1 year of doing much. Devon Achane, workload concerns. Raheem Mostert is back. We've never seen him do anything other than efficiency, never seen a large workload. In general, I don't like this tier at all. They're all kind of in the second round of 1 QB startups, maybe the third round of Superflex startups. They're just too expensive. I'd rather pay up for the tier 1 guys. And of these players, if I had to pick one that's the scariest, it's actually Jonathan Taylor. He's already 25 years old. 2022, you can see, I mean, he was fine, but wasn't all that special. And then 2023, kind of a little bit more efficient, but, struggled to get any receiving work, just 19 catches in 2023. The receiving workload is not there for Jonathan Taylor. The efficiency is down from earlier in his career. So he would definitely be the one that I'd be trying to get out from under, because if he has another, non-elite season at 26 in 2025, he's not going to be worth, anywhere near what he's worth now. Now, next up, we have our tier 3. So this is a bigger tier. We have 7 players in this tier: Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Saquon Barkley, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Rachaad White, and Isiah Pacheco. This tier mostly includes middle-aged and slightly older running backs, including 4 players born in 1999: White, Pacheco, Etienne, and Cook. But each of these players, I would say tier 1, I basically have no concerns. Tier 2, maybe there's a concern, but maybe not so major. Tier 3, each of these players has a major concern. Major concern that is very worrying. So from top to bottom, Kenneth Walker, we have Zach Charbonnet there. We know that Zach Charbonnet is a good prospect, drafted in the second round. There's competition, big competition. Travis Etienne fell off in 2023 compared to 2022. He had the injury in 2021, so he really only has one great, efficient season of production. Saquon Barkley, already 27, changing teams late in his career, tends not to work out for running backs. Cook was great in 2023, but we know the Bills want to become more run heavy, and I would not be surprised if they had a big-time running back in the NFL draft. Jacobs was horrific in 2023. Volume-only play, was not good. And his contract is only guaranteed for 1 year on the Packers. White, same issue as Cook. We know the Buccaneers met with Jonathan Brooks, and they might add someone, except unlike Cook, White has never even been efficient as a runner. So he has more than one strike against him. And then as for Isiah Pacheco, he's been a good player. Can't help feeling that the Chiefs could replace him at any time. I don't think he has a stranglehold on that job long term. They did re-sign Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I do think they're going to upgrade at the RB2, RB3 position from Jerick McKinnon, possibly with their third-round pick in the NFL draft. Now, of these players, I generally want to look at value. So they're not. I have them in this order. I generally find that Travis Etienne and Saquon Barkley are the two most expensive. I just won't draft them. They're too expensive for me. Kenneth Walker comes at a decent price because people are afraid of Zach Charbonnet. So I've been able to get him on a few teams. He's someone I don't mind. As for James Cook and Rachaad White, you're really just betting on them not adding a day two guy. So you know what the risk is there. Isiah Pacheco, we know he'll be the starter, but maybe they'll add a compliment. The one that I really want to avoid, though, is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, like I said, contract's only guaranteed for 2024. And in 2023, he was really bad. Really, really bad. He looked putrid. He looked slow. He was not as good as Jahmyr White on the same team. 3.5 yards a carry, decline from all the other years. Just 37 catches for 296 yards. Volume only. And, is it safe to say that possibly Josh Jacobs is in the twilight of his career at 26? He's had a lot of work previously. To me, there's almost no upside with Josh Jacobs. So all the risk is on the downside. So of the players in this tier, he's the one I absolutely do not want. Tier 4. So again, 7 players in this tier. And there's kind of a mix here. We have Tyjae Spears, who's a younger player. Then kind of the older veterans, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Rhamondre Stevenson, not old, but kind of in the middle. And then, the guys who've been around for a while. Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, Derrick Henry. So outside of Spears, who I talked about in a recent Dynasty Buys video, this tier is very unappealing to me. Very unappealing. And you're noticing a pattern. I'm not liking a lot of these players. That's why I don't usually draft a lot of running backs. I either go hero or zero RB in most Dynasty leagues. Now, as for the rest of this tier, Swift is on his third team after 2 other teams didn't really want him very much. As for Kamara and Henry, I don't hate them as cheap veteran buys or picks in a startup if they're cheap. Same with David Montgomery. But, the player in this tier I really don't want, the one that really terrifies me and is also probably the most expensive, is Javonte Williams. Just not a fan. In 2021, he was fine as a rookie, but he split work with Melvin Gordon. Didn't really stand out other than the 43 catches. In 2022, played a few games, kind of was similar, and then, tore his knee up. And then last year he came back and looked even worse than he did in 2021. So the difference between Javonte Williams and some of the other running backs who've gotten hurt is that Javonte Williams was never great in the NFL. It's not like Breece Hall. It's not like Dalvin Cook, who were great, then suffered an injury, and then took a while to come back. Javonte Williams was never great. So I'm not sure why I would assume that he's going to come back great. He's entering a contract year in 2024. We know that the Broncos offense and the entire team is going to be abysmal in 2024. It's not going to be very run-heavy game scripts because they're always going to be behind. And we know that Jaleel McLaughlin looked better than Williams at times in 2023, was far more efficient behind the same offensive line. I have a feeling that of the players in this tier, Williams is the one that's worth way, way less in a year's time. He could be on some team as a backup and, lost most of his dynasty value by then. And Last tier we're going to talk about. 5 players in this tier. And, I hate this tier a little less, considering that it's cheaper. Zach Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, and Jaylen Warren. Charbonnet, to me, is the standout value in this tier. It's interesting. I like both the value of Kenneth Walker and of Zach Charbonnet at their current prices. I think they're both a little undervalued because they're talented and being undervalued because they're in the same backfield. Charbonnet was my clear running back 3 in the 2023 class behind Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like I said, I thought he was unlucky to get stuck on the Seahawks behind Kenneth Walker. He got the second-round draft capital, but the landing spot was bad. In college, he was great. Final year in college, 195 carries, 1,359 yards and 14 touchdowns, 7 yards a carry, and 37 catches for 321 yards. He did it all. He showed efficiency. We like that. Touchdowns. Yes, he showed that. Good workload. Yes. And receiving ability. Yes. He showed all of those things. Unfortunately, as a rookie, Pete Carroll always favors his veterans. Just 108 carries for 462 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. Not bad for a rookie. 33 catches. Not terrible for someone who got the playing time that he did. There is a new coaching staff now. I think that Charbonnet may push for slightly more of a 50-50 split. Although, like I said earlier, I do like the talent of Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet is also a great handcuff. So talent eventually usually works itself out. He's the one that most interests me in this tier. The rest of the tier does not interest me. Brian Robinson is fine, but the receiving upside's gone with Austin Eckler now on the Commanders. Joe Mixon's contract extension gives you one last opportunity to sell. We've talked about this many times. He's looked washed up for years. He hasn't been efficient for years. I don't know why the Texans overpaid him, but I think they're going to regret that very quickly. And then as for Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, honestly, there's probably some value there. The problem is which one of them it's going to be. I don't really know. We know that Arthur Smith is going to have a committee. So I don't hate drafting either one of them if one of them falls. But, generally they both go too high for my liking. Now, if you like what I talked about here, all of these rankings are on the Patreon, all of them. And you can see, I talked about it on here, but it's not the same as seeing the ranking sheet to see exactly how far apart I have all of these guys. I just split the tiers up in a way that I thought was most comprehensive to discuss. But the ranking sheet will show you exactly how I view these players, which you can sign up for at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. The link is up there. Additionally, only patrons get to ask advanced questions for the YouTube. I only have one for today's episode, partially because I knew this would be a longer episode. So we'll just jump into that and then we'll end the show. If I wanted to flip rookie picks for players, is it best to do it before the rookie draft or after the rookie draft? When can I get the best value? It's almost never the best time to do it right now. On the clock is often a good time because you have the most leverage, but sometimes it can be stressful to have to complete every move on the clock. I understand that. So typically, though, value of rookie picks goes up after the NFL draft. People value certainty, and there's a lot more of that post-draft. So either on the clock or after the NFL draft is the best time to flip rookie picks for players. Now is not a great time. Well, if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment. This was a new type of video for me, so I'm really interested in hearing your feedback on this video. Of course, always subscribe to the channel, turn that notifications bell on so you can be notified about all of my future content, especially with the NFL draft. We're going to have lots of content that week. And of course, as always, I just want to thank everyone for watching, all of the patrons who contribute questions to the YouTube channel, and just everyone who supports my content in general. But until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace out.